Wonderful to have you here, Lawrence.
So nice to be with you, Jan. Thank
Fantastic.
you.
So you actually ran against Bernie Sanders.
I did. And I had a chance to sit across the table from Bernie Sanders and explain to him why his ideas for America are absolutely 180 degrees in the wrong direction from what has already made America great. I'll tell you an interesting little anecdote. In the debate, he and I both had the protocol to ask each other a question or two. The question I first asked him was, so Senator Sanders, now that you're a millionaire, there are so many young Vermonters who would love to emulate your success. What advice would you have for all of these young Vermonters in our free market, entrepreneurial, constitutional society? So he looked down for a moment, thought, he said, well, Mr. Zupan, I wrote a book, and then he proceeded to talk about his book. So there you had the following spectacle. If you can just imagine this with me for a moment. There we are in VPR, the affiliate of NPR, hardly a bastion of creative entrepreneurial promotion. Here we had the self-avowed socialist senator hawking like an infomercial, a prototypical capitalist pitch about his book. He starts going into a pitch on VPR about his book. And at the end of it, he was talking about how everybody should go out and buy the book, and this is how he became a millionaire. So the only thing wrong was I forgot to thank him for making my case so perfectly about how somebody could be, at the age of 40, broke and never having worked, and now be a millionaire in America. Because he made the case for me.
Entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship, creative free market, use of the free market. I should have congratulated him on his success, but I was too busy asking him the next question, which was, so, Senator Sanders, the United States of America has fed, housed, clothed, with success and liberty, more people than any other country in the history of the world. Your socialism has caused more death, decay, want, starvation, and human suffering than any other misbegotten system in the whole history of the world. So why, oh why, would you want to dredge up that poisonous water from Venezuela and submerge America in such sewage sludge? So all that Senator Sanders could say is, well, why do you pick Venezuela? Well, a few years ago you were championing Hugo Chavez as a big socialist icon of success. But of course, now that the middle class of Venezuelans are dumpster diving for dinner, I understand why you don't really want to talk about Venezuela anymore. So what about Scandinavia? I said, I'm glad you brought up Scandinavia. Because the countries of Scandinavia, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, they have built their successful economies on the principles of free market, capitalist, entrepreneurial success.
Absolutely. Not widely known, right?
No,
yeah.
They are bedrock capitalists, and they have a relatively homogeneous population that is very dedicated to working hard and paying their taxes, which, by the way, for someone making $37,000 in Sweden, they pay 60% of it to the government. But because they have a capitalist system which respects property rights, which respects the right to earn and to build something and own it, they had enough to experiment with an expanded welfare system, which, by the way, now, Senator Sanders, they're finding it necessary to cut back on because it's not sustainable, and they've been having a revolt from their people. Besides, a country of 5 million, you can hardly compare a homogeneous society of 5 million having an experiment in an expanded welfare state to a heterogeneous country like America with 330 million people trying to bring such a socialist menace here. There's no country where socialism has been tried that it's worked. Another case of where communism and socialism fails everywhere. I think Barry Farber counted it was 39-0. It's failed everywhere. Whereas the United States of America has not only succeeded wildly for 243 years, it's become the model for success for almost every nation that has ever had a success since the United States came into being. So come on, Bernie, tell me why you want us to be socialists now. I'm all ears.
So I guess he didn't have a good answer to that question.
Well,
right?
Mr. Zupan, he only could deflect and accuse. He didn't have an answer. He said, oh, Mr. Zupan, you sound like your friend Donald Trump. That's all he could say. So, you know, I guess he lost the argument.
So, so what's your take on the direction the administration has taken, speaking of your friend Donald Trump?
Well,
the president?
Yeah. The direction, first of all, I admire a man, whether he's the president or not, who endeavors to keep his promises. That's point number one. The fact that he happens to be the president of the United States amplifies the power, meaning, and value of keeping those promises, and the benefits rippling out to a tremendous number of cascading numbers of people. For example, lowering the taxes, confronting, I mean, I'm long enough around so that I remember the Korean War, and I remember that there's no president that's done anything to move the needle on that. Now, granted, we don't have huge tangible success yet, but he's moved the needle, and he's opened up the dialogue, and he's done it with courage, and he's done it with willingness to have it not work, because he's an entrepreneur. He knows that if you don't start something, you've already failed. If you start it and fail, okay, you're not any worse off generally. You found something else that didn't work. So at least you've tried, and maybe you'll succeed. So that is such a vital thing that he's accomplished with North Korea. And approaching the various promises that the president has made, I want to support him for continuing to do everything he knows is right. When he stands up there at the beginning of this month and actually said in the State of the Union, the United States of America will never be a socialist country, I was only in my living room, so you don't generally stand up and applaud, but guess what? You know, this deserves applause, because of course the United States of America should never be a socialist country. Of course, the movement, the Marxian movement, which started coming of age just as the United States was entering its robust late adolescence and proving to the world in the 1840s that it was here to stay. It was a miraculous event. It was a country that broke from the greatest empire that existed in the time and was building a society that was based on people having rights senior to the rights of their government in this monarchy-laden world of Europe. It was a miracle. It's no coincidence that Marxism sprung up and the Communist Manifesto just at that time, and ever since then, communism has been trying to squeeze the life out of the United States of America and every country that emulates it. Guess what's getting the life squeezed out of it? Every communist country is getting life squeezed out of it because communism kills. And the United States of America, ideologically, is killing communism because it's showing that it's a vastly inferior system which can never deliver on its false, lying promises. I'll tell you the op-ed that is going in one of the major papers within the next few days. It's called A Tale of Two Bernies. And the Tale of Two Bernies is like this. You got Bernie Madoff, who merely cost the American public and thousands of investors $18 billion. Yeah, he set a record for investment fraud, got to hand it to him. But then you got Bernie Sanders, who wants to institute a $34 trillion healthcare system which will never work, and now a $93 trillion Green New Deal system, which is a devastating laughingstock unless you're a Democrat. You don't know how to laugh at yourself, but it's crazy. And he wants to destroy the greatest economy in the history of the world. His fraud is much more pernicious, much more widespread, and much more potentially damaging than poor Bernie Madoff, who at least didn't have any pretense at altruism, pled guilty and went to jail like, you know, he took it. But Bernie Sanders is trying to pretend that he's saving our country by destroying it. Sorry, Bernard Sanders, but you will never be the president of the United States, and your ideas of socialism will never prevail in this country. So help me God, if anybody is a praying person or a voting person, it will never happen.
This is a good place to finish up. That's a powerful, powerful testament.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share it.
Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Jan.